Hello everyone, I am Arnel Makahalas and I am in Group 6, which my assigned topic is all about the Article 35. Article 35. Effect of bond to keep the peace. It shall be the duty of any person sentenced to give bond to keep the peace, to present two sufficient sureties who shall undertake that such person will not commit the offence sought to be prevented, and that in case such as offence be committed, they will pay the amount determined by the court in the judgment, or otherwise to deposit such amount in the office of the clerk of the court to guarantee the said undertaking. Bond to keep the peace or for good behavior is imposed as a penalty and rates. Example, offender must present two sureties to ensure he will not commit the offense sought to be prevented, and if the offense is committed, he will have to pay the amount determined by the court, or deposit the amount to the clerk of court, or he may be detained if he can't give the bond. Also, for grave and less grave felonies, the detainment is maximum of 6 months, and for light felonies, the detainment is maximum of 30 days. That's all. Thank you.
Good morning, sir, and everyone. I am Angelica Garcia, and I am assigned to report the Article 36 and Article 37. So, Article 36, pardon, its effect. A pardon shall not work the restoration of the right to hold public office or the right to suffrage, unless such rights be expressly restored by the terms of pardon. A pardon shall in no case exempt the culprit from the payment of the civil indemnity imposed upon him by the sentence. So pardon only be given to the accused by the President if the sender of the final judgment has ended. The President cannot give his pardon if the case of the offender is still ongoing. So now let us understand the effects of the pardon by the President. 1. A pardon shall not work the restoration of the right to hold public office or the right of suffrage. Exception is when the President gave the pardon, which includes the right to hold the public office, the right of suffrage, etc. The rights of the offender can be restored, but the general rule is not included when giving a pardon. So kung gihatag na sa President ang pardon, it doesn't mean na mabalik na dito sa offender ang right nga makahold siya sa public office or sa right sa suffrage. But ang exemption ana is unless ang pardon nga gihatag by the President is expressed. And number 2, a pardon shall in no case exempt the culprit from the payment of the civil indemnity imposed upon him by the sentence. Example, the offender was imprisoned for about 10 years, plus he was to pay for the damages he made, that is worth 10K. So when the President gives pardon about the case, the penalty, which is being imprisoned for 10 years, is the one that shall be extinguished, but not civil indemnity. So in this part, pag ang President kay naghatag og pardon to an offender, dili maapil diri ang civil indemnity na related sa case sa offender. So meaning magbayad pa Japon siya 10K daw na end na iyang years sa pagkaapiso. Now let's move to Article 37. Costs. What are included? Costs shall include fees and indemnities in the course of judicial proceedings, whether they be fixed or unalterable amounts previously determined by law or regulations in force, or amounts not subject to schedule. So basically, this provision defines what are included in cost. Costs are chargeable to the accused in the case of conviction. Costs are expenses of litigation. In case of acquittal, the costs are de officio, each party bearing his own expenses. So ang cost ma-charge na siya sa offender when he or she is convicted. In case of acquittal, the cost So what is acquittal? Acquittal is a formal declaration in court of law that someone who has been accused of a crime is innocent. So ano ni siya when the accused is already convicted, so siya ang magbayad, but in the case of acquittal, both parties ang magbayad so sa expenses, meaning proportionate. The following are included in costs: fees and indemnities. So in my conclusion, the cost is chargeable to the offender if he is convicted. And when the case has been acquitted, both the accused and the other parts shall bear their own expenses. That's all.
I'm Gayo John Michael, and I'm assigning Article 38, Article 39. Article 38, Pecuniary Liabilities, Order of Payment. In case the property of the offender should not be sufficient for the payment of all his pecuniary liabilities, the same shall be met in the following order: the reparation of the damage caused, indemnification of consensual damage. The number 3 is the fine. The number 4 is the cost of the proceedings. A legal obligation of levied on any firm of entity which requires that company to pay compensation for any loss or poor usage of funds, usually stemming from the failure of the entity to carry out its responsibilities. Article 39, Subsidiary Penalty. If the convict has no property which to meet the precautionary liabilities mentioned in paragraphs 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of the next preceding article, he shall be subject to a subsidiary personal liability at the rate of the 1 day for 2 pesos and 50 centavos, subject to the following rules. Number 1, if the principal penalty imposed be present, correctional, or arresto, and fine, he shall remain under confinement until his fine and pecuniary liabilities referred to preceding paragraphs are satisfied. But his subsidiary imprisonment shall not exceed 1/3 of the term of the sentence, and in no case shall it continue for than 1 year, and no fraction or part a day shall be counted against the prisoner. Number 2, when the principal penalty imposed only a fine, subsidiary imprisonment shall be not exceed in 6 months. If the culprit shall have been prosecuted for a grave or less grave felony, and shall not exceed 15 days if for light felony. The third is when the principal penalty imposed is higher than prison correctional, no subsidiary imprisonment shall be imposed upon the culprit. The number 4. If the principal penalty imposed is not to be executed by confinement in a penal institution, but such is of fixed duration, the convict during the period of time established in the preceding rules shall be continued to suffer the same deprivation as those of which principal penalty consists. The number 5, the last one, is subsidiary personal liability, which the convict may have suffered by reason of his insolvency shall not relieve him from reparation of the damage caused, nor from the indemnification for the consensual damage in case financial circumstances should improve, but they shall be relieved from pecuniary liability as to define. That's all. Thank you.
Article 40, or the death, it, its accessory penalties. The death penalty, when it is not executed by reason of commutation or pardon, shall carry with it that of perpetual absolute disqualification and that of civil interdiction during 30 years following the date of sentence, unless such accessory penalties have been expressly remitted in the pardon. Today, death penalty is abolished due to cruelty. If a judge sentences a death penalty, it is directly converted into reclusion perpetua or the penalty of 30 to 40 years. And the accessory penalties with Article 40 are perpetual, absolute disqualification, and civil interdiction. And that's all. Thank you.
I am Joel Vincent Malco, the reporter of Article 41, Reclusion Perpetua and Reclusion Temporal. Their accessories penalties. The penalties of reclusion perpetua and reclusion temporal shall carry with them that of civil interdiction for life or during the period of sentence as the case may be, and that of perpetual absolute disqualification which the offender shall suffer even though pardoned as to the principal penalty, unli- unless the same shall have been expressly remitted in the pardon. Reclusion perpetual. The penalty of reclusion perpetual shall be from 20 years and 1 day to 40 years. Reclusion of perpetual is imposed for crimes punishable under the revised penal code, whereas life imprisonment refers to the offenses punishable under special laws. When a person commit a crime, the court of law will punish which later imprison them, depriving them of their freedom and removing them from society. Reclusion temporal. The penalty of reclusion temporal shall be from 12 years and 1 day to 20 years. Reclusion temporal has the same accessories penalties as reclusion perpetua. Example, if a child is in conflict which the law is charged with murder, the prescribed penalty is reclusion perpetua to death, while the penalty to be actually imposed is reclusion temporal because of the privilege mitigating or monetary.
Article 42. Prison mere its necessary penalty. The penalty of prison mere shall carry with it that temporary absolute disqualification, and that the perpetua special disqualification from the right of suffrage which the offender shall be suffered also the pardon as to the principal penalty, unless the same shall have been expressively remitted in the pardon. The duration of penalty of prison mere and temporary disqualification shall be from 6 years and 1 day to 12 years, except when the penalty of disqualification is imposed as an accessory penalty, in which case its duration shall be the principal penalty. Prison mere minimum. Prison mere absolute disqualification and special temporary disqualification includes in penalty of entirety from 6 years and 1 day to 12 years. Includes in minimum period from 6 years and 1 day to 8 years. Includes in medium period from 8 years and 1 day to 10 years. Lower penalty next the prison mere. 2 degree lower is prison mere minimum and medium. Minimum is 14 years, 8 months and 1 day to 17 years and 4 months. Medium is 17 years, 4 months and 1 day to 20 years. Maximum reclusion perpetua and 1 degree lower is prison mere medium to reclusion temporal medium.
I am Cadet Ihan Kantnijan. My report or my assigned topic is Article 43, prison correctional, its accessories, penalties. The penalty of prison correctional shall carry with it that of suspension from public office, from the right to follow profession of calling, and that of perpetual special disqualification from the right of suffrage, if the duration of said imprisonment shall exceed 18 months. The offender shall suffer the disqualification provided in the article, although pardoned as the principal penalty, unless the same shall have been expressly remitted in the pardon. The crimes punishable by prison correctional are prohibition, interruption, and dissolution of peaceful meetings. The penalty of prison correctional in its minimum period shall be imposed upon any public officer or employee who, without legal ground, shall prohibit or interrupt the holding of a peaceful meeting or shall dissolve the same.
Article 44. Article 44 Aristo is accessory penalties. The penalty of the aristo shall carry with that of the suspension of the right to hold office in the right of suffrage during this term of sentence. Article 45. Article 45 Confiscation and forfeiture of the proceeds of the instruments of the crime. Every penalty imposed for the formation of the felony shall carry with it forfeiture of the proceeds of the crime and the instruments or tools with which it was committed. Such proceeds and instruments or tools shall be confiscated and forfeited in favor of the government, unless they be property of a third person not liable for the offense, but those outsides which are not subject of the lawful commerce shall be destroyed.